Welcome to DC Music Summit Goes Boom. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you to the Kennedy Center for having us. For those of you who don't know, the DC Music Summit is happening Saturday, February 1st at the Eaton Hotel in DC, and its mission is to empower local musicians here to thrive in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia communities while nurturing diversity, inclusion, and accessibility in this area. We are looking for volunteers in the back. There's a volunteer sign-up sheet. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for donations, everything and information you can find on dcmusicsummit.org, or grab one of us, and we're happy to answer questions for you. We appreciate all the love and support from our community. And without further ado, we would like to introduce a local nonprofit record label, This Could Go Boom, and here are the ladies of This Could Go Boom.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Am I audible? Oh, that's good. Well, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. I want to thank DC Music Summit for sure. I want to thank the Kennedy Center, and we most certainly also want to thank Iza Flo, who's about to rock out after we're done. So, full disclosure, we have cheat sheets with us tonight, but it's just to make sure you guys get all the information that we have to share. Our mission statement, as This Could Go Boom, revolves around the fact that we believe in the potency of unheard, underpromoted musical narratives and their potential to spark action and cultural change. We champion these voices by offering record label services, workshops, which I've seen a couple familiar faces in here who've been to those, performance opportunities, and community outreach programming focused on women, non-binary musicians, and sound engineers, music business professionals, students, and music lovers.
So we were launched with a community-funded grassroots campaign, and we are totally volunteer-led. In the past year and a half, This Could Go Boom has presented more than 100 women and non-binary-led projects in live performances. We're pleased to have this past year released our first album on vinyl. We've developed and offered workshops in music making, skill building, sound engineering, and even conducted Safer Steens training for local venues. We've developed and nurtured phenomenal partnerships, actually, with local businesses like Seven Drum City, with nonprofits like DC Music Summit here tonight, and also nationally recognized institutions like the Smithsonian. We've placed artists in venues such as Arena Stage. We've connected artists with Courage to Run, and even passed along opportunities with the Washington Mystics. We've actually become, in the last year and a half, I think, a presence and a platform for advocacy and celebration of gender marginalized music makers and music lovers. We've been lucky enough to have press at the national and even international level, as well as the local level. We have some pretty ambitious goals for 220. We'll be creating a holistic program in music technology for women and non-binary sound engineers, and developing revenue streams through licensing and sync opportunities for some of our independent musicians. Now, before we delve in, I want to tell you, we do only have 25 minutes tonight. We actually conducted a conversation on a similar topic at the Hirshhorn this past October, and we had to get cut off at 1 hour and 45 minutes. Not that anyone needs to be told this, but this is just a seed. It's a conversation starter. In actuality, it's just part of a very long conversation that started before us, and hopefully will not need to progress too long after we're not here, but it's definitely one worth engaging in, and it's really important that we commune with the music community as part of this long conversation. So on that note, we're going to introduce ourselves. Good evening, my name is Eric Casey, and I am a co-founder of This Could Go Boom, an ongoing volunteer. I'm a local musician, and I also run a classroom-based early education music program. The reason I'm involved and passionate about This Could Go Boom is because in the wake of the 2016 election, quite simply, I realized I wasn't doing enough to amplify and promote the valuable diverse narratives and people that were around me.
And I'm Robsy Truelove. I am a local drummer. I've been professionally drumming both in the studio and live, touring, all that stuff for about 10 years now. At the risk of outing my age, I've been drumming in general for about 20 years. And I would say that personally for me, the reason why I was super excited about This Could Go Boom is because in my adventures as a musician, I have far too often witnessed and experienced a few questionable scenarios for friends of mine who are non-binary, friends of mine who, you know, just didn't even feel safe going to specific locations to perform, things like that. And quite frankly, I've experienced it myself firsthand, some of it. So I thought it was a pretty awesome message to get behind and to actually pull together and do something about.
Hi, I'm Selena Benali. I'm also one of the co-founders and volunteers for This Could Go Boom. I'm a local musician in a couple bands around the area, and I'm also a freelance graphic designer.
I'm Erin Frisbee. I'm also one of the co-founders of This Could Go Boom. We all play in a band together called the 06. I'm a musician, I'm a teaching artist, and a visual artist as well. The reason that I became involved was that I feel very passionately that allowing space for and encouraging more diverse voices in the arts in general, and specifically in music, elevates the quality of the music that we produce and support and get to listen to and leave behind. And that when we fall into the mythology that any one type of person with a certain type of experience is the owner of genius in any of our arts, we tend towards mediocrity. And so I'm here for the equality of the entire project, but also for the quality of the wonderful music that we're going to get to hear, which you're going to get to experience some of in a bit with Iza Flo.
So one of the things we want to ask is there a lack of gender diversity in the musical landscape? With the voices of Lizzo, Billie Eilish, Beyonce, and Taylor Swift lighting up airwaves, is lack of representation still an issue that impacts society and deserves our focus? Let's take a look at some of the data concerning gender representation in music. So last year, the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative completed a groundbreaking study on inclusion that revealed dismal numbers with regards to gender equality across the music industry. There was the inclusion in the recording studio report, studied gender and race in the industry's core professions. And we have some of the resulting numbers from that report.
So sit tight, there are going to be a lot of numbers here, but this is important background information for the rest. So this study found that in popular music, that only 21.7% of artists were women, not half, and that out of those, only 12.3 were actually songwriters. And this was based on 700 pop songs from Billboard's year-end Hot 100 charts between 2012 and 2018. Even more dismal, only 2% of recording engineers, it turned out, were identified as women. This was particularly interesting for us at This Could Go Boom because we conducted a community talk for recording engineers, people going in to study recording engineering and into the profession, to gauge what the barriers were, what some of the challenges were, and what we could do to encourage people to go into those areas. And we called it the 5% because at the time, before the Annenberg study came out, that was the working number, and it was an inference that Women's Audio Mission helped with. And then when the actual numbers were put together, it turned out that it was far worse at only 2%.
Geez, yeah, that was kind of a revelation. The study also looked at country music, and that was extremely, extremely stark. Only 16% of the artists were female in the top 500 country charts, and only 12% songwriters. So equally concerning, none of the top performing musical female artists were over 40 years old, whereas for the cis males, only one male, of the artists that they looked at, only one male was under 40. Says something.
This was the Annenberg study, was actually groundbreaking in its breadth and its scope. No one had ever gathered this much data on representation. What they also gathered was information on women's lived experiences. And ultimately, as you may have expected, they came to the conclusion that the biggest barrier women face is the way the music industry actually thinks about women. Dr. Smith reported that the perception of women is highly stereotypical, sexualized, and without skill. And she came to the conclusion that until these core beliefs are altered, women will continue to face a roadblock as they navigate their careers. It's important to remember as we talk about women that very few to none of our male counterparts face these same obstacles. Of course, additional studies have found similar inequalities. Northwestern University study just last year found that out of 5,000 labels that were studied, less than 1/3 of them had released anything by a single female artist, and that's not even getting into diverse populations and non-binary artists. Also, there's of course, the country music industry has been plagued with controversy. The first study on airplay was conducted just last year. And of course, they came to the conclusion that it's very unbalanced and that found a direct correlation between programming decisions and the impact it had on the success of songs. And of course, women are not afforded equal playtime, and it dramatically affects their success and sustainability. In fact, just last week, a country music DJ out of Saginaw actually tweeted out that nobody in country music dare play two women's songs back to back, and he actually had admiration for anyone who had the balls to do that. Just to give you an idea of sort of the unspoken code behind the scenes.
So why do we perceive parity when the reality of the numbers is so stark? You've likely heard of implicit bias, which is the attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner, meaning the things we've been taught and have absorbed our whole lives inform what is true for us. And you've probably also heard of confirmation bias, which is the tendency people have to embrace information that supports their beliefs and to reject information that contradicts them. But you may be feeling some pushback within yourself to these statistics right now. You might be thinking maybe fewer women tend to pursue music because they have different priorities. You might think art is different. We know what we like and talent always rises to the top. Or you may have like a voice in the back of your head that says, I don't think this is correct. I hear a lot of women on the radio and I see a ton of gender diverse music stars featured in the media. But this last thought might be affected by the gender perception gap.
And I don't know how many of you heard of the gender perception gap, but it's quite simply that. It's the difference between how many people are actually in a room, like we are here, and how many people are perceived to be in a room. And a study conducted by the Gina Davis Institute of Gender and Media found that when there are 17% women in a room, that's the magic number, where men generally think, overwhelmingly think, that there are half women in the room, that the gender divide is equal. When you reach 33%, the vast majority of males think that there are more women in a room. And that perception actually really contributes quite heavily to this misconception of parity in music. And it happens everywhere. So when you hear sort of conservative voices claiming that society's become feminized, you might want to think, well, that probably means that there are between 17 and 33% women being represented.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because I feel like I've been guilty of that myself. I might think there's many more white men in a room than there actually are. I don't know. But anyway, we ourselves ask this question, and we ask our peers to ask this question. What impact does a lack of gender diverse representation in music have in our culture and in our world? So let's take a moment real quick to just kind of think about these things I'm about to mention shortly, and reflect on how your brain might be interpreting them. So I'm not like a guru or anything, so I'm not going to ask you to close your eyes, but just kind of picture this. A guitarist, right? Now picture the greatest guitarists of all time. What does the term the greatest guitarists of all time put in your mind? And how many of them are women? How many of them are women of color, right? The Rolling Stone Top 100 list included 2 women guitarists and no women of color in a recent one. So that was kind of stark. Now think about great composers. Whose work have you heard? What about a list of rappers that you can think of, the best rappers you can think of? How many are women? When you think of an important record engineer or producer, what do they look like in your mind? When you picture a non-cis male musician, can they be of color? Can they be older than you? Can they be of size? Can they be trans, queer? Can they play music of any genre, or do you just kind of box them into one genre that you expect them to play? I know that I'm guilty of some of that stuff not being very fair for people. Can they represent or present physicality along the gender spectrum? And this final point speaks to me personally because I'm pretty passionate about this one, but do you ever envision a person who's female, identifies as female, non-binary, trans? Do you ever picture them in a position of power? Because that's where they will have better influence to not only help themselves, but people who have their experience also in music. I looked at a Forbes magazine article recently that actually said that female executives in the music industry, few as there are, make 30%, up to 30% less than their male counterparts. And that's literally just one of many different things that they face. That's just one problem, not the weird room you're sitting in where there's like these guys looking at you funny, or there was a COO, a female COO, that said that she went to a meeting and there literally wasn't even a female restroom. And the gentleman said, well, oops, I'm not gonna say you were the only female in here. I don't think the others ever needed to use the bathroom. And she was like appalled. So this trickles down though. So we're talking about an executive level, but if you have more people representing various different sectors of humanity in positions where they can call shots, it will trickle down to even the person that just, wants to come see the show. So that's just something for everybody to think about.
So we're using these particular studies and these statistics because they're what's available, but I'd like everyone to keep in mind that these generalized studies tend to focus on cis women and women who express their gender identity as female on a societal level. And that's not really what representation means. One token woman's story, that 12% of songwriters, isn't really enough because we're talking about intersectional identities and intersectional issues that contribute to the lived experiences of the artists and also to the barriers that they are gonna face. There are gonna be different issues for someone who is a mother than there are going to be for someone who's just gotten out of music school and going to college. People are gonna bring other aspects of their identity as far as their sexuality, their race, their able-bodiedness, and we can't limit women's participation in music to what's appealing sexually, what is considered traditionally beautiful, to whiteness, to able-bodiedness. That leaves a lot of stories and experiences out of our musical landscape, and that's what we're seeking to highlight and bring back into our musical landscape. Natashi Onwumgabie said that representation can make disadvantaged groups become real people. I want you to think about how songs have defined eras for you, certain times in your life, your own childhood memories, social events and how you interact with people, how you commune with people that you love and who you know, important dates. How does music affect how you take in film and movie, what emotions and what motivations from the characters you take away, and how does it affect how you consume goods? It's sometimes easy to dismiss popular music as not integral to our culture, but it's really in every aspect of how we live our lives daily and how we make memories and how we move forward together. And in this way, representation changes the way that we view our collective story as a whole. What narratives do you think have been historically and could potentially be lost because of the lack of intersectional gender representation in historical music and in contemporary music? Darnell Hunt, who's the director at the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies at UCLA, told the Huffington Post, "We're pretty confident that the more media you consume, the more likely it is that the media, almost like radiation, builds up, and the accumulated effect is to make you feel that what you're seeing is somewhat normal." So if what you're seeing and what you're hearing is normal, what happens if you don't see or hear your fellow citizens? What happens if you don't see or hear yourself?
That resonates deeply with me personally. I personally believe that if you can see it, then you can most certainly be it too. So when you see like a one-dimensional flat version of yourself depicted time and time again, just repeatedly, time and time again, you start to ask, is this all I'm expected to be? And if you don't fit those very narrow boundaries, then where does that leave you? Where do you belong? And you ask, do I matter?
So what does positive change look like? The good news is that change is already happening. Movements like Time's Up and studies like the Annenberg Initiative are drawing attention to representation issues in the media. And in the past couple of days, CMT even announced that moving forward, their music video programming will reflect parity between male and female artists. And I think that's pretty big for CMT. On a local level, some venues are making concerted efforts to include diverse lineups, and community partners are making space for each other to be heard in an effort to strengthen our diverse voices as a part of the full picture. DC Music Summit made space for us to be here today, and also you're here. So, that makes a big difference. Your power as a music lover is not to be dismissed or taken lightly. We ask that you pay attention to who isn't being heard in all aspects of the music community, and that you demand a vibrant musical culture that includes gender diverse perspectives in performance, in songwriting and composition, in archiving, recording engineering, music journalism, and media management.
Now this is where y'all come in. So this gets exciting at this point. Because you can do things. You can ask for safer spaces training at the places that you patronize. You can undergo bystander intervention training yourself. We've all done it. It's fascinating every single time. You can encourage and help facilitate leadership roles for women. As Robsy said earlier, representation is just so critical. I mean, once you start seeing it, you can't stop seeing it. And it just fosters more and more growth, and that's what we're trying to do. Unfortunately, representation is still a giant obstacle for women in the music industry. So you can also take part in helping to educate local businesses, because it actually empowers them to make conscious decisions regarding staffing, booking, hiring, who you see on that stage, who you hear on the airwaves. Favor those venues and businesses that are doing well in this area. Then you can value and support workshops for technical fields to increase the number of female and non-binary artists and help retain them. We found that that was an obstacle too, that there were a lot of women expressing an interest in those fields, and a lot of women were dropping out, and for reasons that, a myriad of reasons actually, that you can probably take a shot at a few.
To add to that, I mean, something as simple as just making sure that you're actively buying records of the bands you really like that are promoted by or facilitated in some way by women, non-binary, and trans artists and makers and executives. Pay artists. A joke that we have amongst us is that exposure does not pay my rent. So it's a reality that falls even harder on women artists who already statistically make less, but then in addition, statistically speaking, are most likely also taking care of children, elders in their family, and other issues and barriers, and educational issues and barriers, opportunity issues and barriers. So I want to also say, let's be pumped though, because it is getting better. I have a quote, again, from Forbes. As you can see, I'm an avid Forbes person. Creating space for women to emerge in leadership roles and to be represented in higher numbers as artists, songwriters, producers, DJs, and engineers is happening. Slowly but surely, and perhaps the interior of the music industry will soon catch up with the progressive and diversified roster of women it supports on the outside. That makes me proud right there, because I see it in our community. I see that that's what they're talking about, basically. But we need more of it.
So Selena, what can you tell us about change?
Change is already happening, and change is always happening. Yeah, sorry, that was my terrible Obama impersonation.
So start by acknowledging that each of us harbors subconscious biases that affect how we listen to music and how we perceive gender diverse perspectives.
So, I have a microphone. What we'd like to do now is to ask, before you leave here, to think about the power that you have. Everyone here has power. Recognize where your power lies, because all of us make decisions every single day, and each one of those decisions sends a message. So at what level do you make decisions? Are you booking shows? Are you attending shows? Are you purely a consumer of digital music because what you listen to matters? You make decisions every single day. Are you booking shows? Are you in a position to employ women in the technical field? Every decision you make sends a message and creates a change.
Follow Iza Flo, support DC Music Summit through their GoFundMe and by attending their conference. This is something that you can do tonight. One of our most important jobs is not to define what music and stories and traditions are important, but to facilitate authentic creative growth and expression and to create avenues for success of those individual lived experiences. This Could Go Boom features women and non-binary artists in performance, and in our monthly newsletter, we rely on your desire to listen to women and your support to continue to forge a path forward for gender diverse music. If this is something you believe in, or if you have any questions, you can come see us in the back or visit us online at thiscouldgoboom.org. And we thank you so much for having us here. Please enjoy the wonderful
Iza Flo.
performance.
Mic check. How are we doing tonight? Right now, I'd like to call to the stage our leading ladies of the evening, Miss Jillian Willis and Dior Ashley Brown.
Ha, 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 as she gazes to the sky, looks up high, there's an aeroplane of focus, there's no limit, it's infinite, so she puffs again, inhale while her stress is whipping the air with the tresses, she's leaving them second guesses for those who need suggestions. Let me get about this wordplay, as I say, irate when you negate, you will seek your fate, in my rhyme, anytime waste time trying to worry about mine. Let me take you on this incline, and get you out that box that's got you wrapped all in your pride. Free falling down from heaven. Get free, get free. I'm free falling down from heaven. Get hate if you want those Joe. This ain't time to get sold. We're gonna be in your boss. They perpetrate can be so cozy. It's between your teeth ain't flousing. Focus so about it. Why you talk about powers? Need to get up on your top.
Let me breathe, taking me high. I wanna go down again, I wanna fly. Spread my wings, close my eyes. I need the relief. It's not a dream, it's all you see. Everything within your reach, ready to fly. Ready to fly.
Get your mind to elevate. Focus on your current state. Forget them haters, let them hate. It's a shame we gotta go on these families who don't flow. But get that time over show. Mediocre as a mic.
I'm free falling down from heaven, like I'm free falling down from heaven, like I'm free falling
Get free, get free.
down from heaven, like I'm free falling down from heaven.
Go ahead, Beth. Hey. I'ma need y'all to get up and dance. I'ma need y'all to get up out your seat. Hey! 'Cause today is Regina's birthday! Happy birthday, Regina! Get 'em, Dad. Young ho, y'all know where the flow is loco. Young B in the IOC. Uh-oh, big homie, the one and only. Dick Bodie, but the pasta fat like Tony. The brown on the rock, handle like Vanexo. A shake Bodie's hands, you can't get that cold. A genuine article, I do not sink though. I slink though, if anything, I'll blink, yo. Tall like Ringo, war like a green beret. You crazy? Bring your whole set. Crazy in the range, Jay-Z in the range. They can't figure out, they like, hey, is he insane? Yes, ma'am, I'm cut from a different cloth. My texture is the best for chinchilla. Been illin' and chain smokers. How you think I got the name Hover? I've been real and the game's over. Fall back young, ever since I made the change over to platinum, the game's been a rap war.
I'm looking so crazy, my baby. I'm not myself. Lately I've been foolish. I don't do
Let it go, let it go.
playing myself. Baby, I don't care. Baby, your love got the best of me. Baby, you're making a fool of me. Got me strong and I don't care who sees. Baby, you got it. You got it all.
We here for DC Music Summit. Thank you so much, Kennedy Center, man. DC Music Summit appreciates this. This is a day-long summit for artists to get their business together. DC Music Summit, February 1st at Eaton Hotel. We need your help, y'all. We need your help. We need you to get inspired. We need to motivate business for creators in this area so they can thrive. There's a lot of room to dance up here, y'all. I want y'all to get up and dance. It's for you. Let it go. You out of work now. Pick it up, make it crack. Put y'all on that DC slang. Bad women, girl gang. Mess with me, I'll show you things. See me twerking, ain't no thing. See me twerking, left to right. Dip and dance, out of sight. Dancing to the street light. We gon' be here all night. Till the sun, morning come. We are what? Having fun, huh? Show them how to work that thing. Show them how to work that thing.
What you got on bass? Here we go.
That's Tiff on bass right there, y'all. Uh-oh.
All right, band, on the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. And 1. All right, take it to the bass.
I know y'all dancing in them seats. Don't be afraid.
We're gonna slow it down just a little
All
bit.
vibes and vibrations.
So we can catch our breath. So this next song was actually written by our fearless leader, Miss Isabelle De Leon on the drums. Can we give it up for Isabelle? Yes, she deserves
Beautiful
it.
composer. Thank you,
And
Iza.
this is a song that we all can actually relate to. It's talking about when you're knocked down in life, when life knocks you down, and you know you're dealing with some not great things, and you get back up. You have the strength to get back up. And we just hope that this encourages you that no matter what happens in life or no matter what life throws at you, you are a fighter. So we hope this resonates with you.
You never nourished. Thought that I was purged, but I'm going the furthest. Don't touch my hair. Cranking off of my verbiage, and they looking real nervous. Work so hard, I deserve it. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money on my dollar bill, y'all. Trying to get a million with or without you, a pavilion. Stacking these gems to the ceiling. Think about my future and my answers of future. You keep hating this pursuer, I'm a guy. Do what you done knew you was a loser, trying to obstruct my vision half time. You wouldn't listen half time. I was in prison, now I'm stepping out this prison, dropping chains now. Ready for revealing, ready for the healing, ready for my turn, inshallah, God willing. Ha, ha, God willing, God willing, God willing.
Smile on my face as I keep on driving. My head in the sky as I keep on thriving. No chains can never hold me down. I'm stronger and I'm hopeful now. You can break my heart, but I'll piece it together. It hurts and it's hard, but at least I know better. What doesn't kill me makes me wiser. I'm stronger now and I'm a fighter. Fighter, fighter, fighter. Fighter, fighter,
Try to knock me off my square, leave me impaired. Knew I fight better health with every new dare. Head high at every new glare. Moving up with every new stare. Whole time you unaware that my value would rival the way your denial would hate my revival. God's plan wanted you to be the man, woman. Gotta wear the bigger pants, passing you with the gas. It's gonna be that last lap, finish line, last laugh. Find my way up out the trap, hit you with that boom bap. Ain't no more booze jack, Stella got a groove back. Headed on a new path, you would never choose that. You would have to bruise that. Ego amigo, you need more people. When I drop these gems, it gets more regal. When the truth hits, it gets more lethal.
Smile on my face as I keep on driving. My head in the sky as I keep on gonna be listening, okay? All right. Let me hear you say, I am a fighter. Let me hear you say, I am. Oh, y'all sound good. A fighter. Let me hear you say, I am a fighter. Say it. I am a fighter. Let me hear you say, I am a warrior. Sing it. I am a warrior. Let me hear you say, I am a warrior. Sing it. I am a warrior. Y'all sound good, the ones that y'all was singing. So now we're gonna do that chorus, and we're gonna sing it all. I want everybody to sing it. I want to hear everybody's voice, even all the way down at the bottom, okay? We're gonna sing it as a group, all right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, fighter, fighter, fighter. Let me hear y'all sing it. Fighter, fighter, fighter. Let me hear you say it. Let me hear you say it. Fighter, fighter. Oh, fighter, fighter, fighter. Yeah. Now I know y'all know this one.
We taking it back to the old school.
Hey.
So if the old school dance don't dance to this, they ain't teaching y'all. Okay? Okay? Little bit of soul, little bit of rock and roll. Our name is Iza Flo, IZAFLO.
Tonight's the night we're gonna make it happen. Tonight we'll put all other things aside. Giving time and showing some affection. We're going for those pleasures all the time. I wanna love you, feel you, wrap myself around you, wanna squeeze you and please you. I just can't get enough. And if you wanna lose control, I'll let it go. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I want you. Get 'em down.
I'm so grown on my own woman tip. Always having problems with the brother on my end. Trying to do some late night sipping in my crib. Need to get your behind up cause you ain't paying for ish. I tell it like it is. Ain't trying to be your mama. Just the first lady making waves like me, Michelle Obama. I'm out it, you out up in my grill. You need a phone, baby, cause I'm headed for the hill. You hating still and you be worry what they talking about. All up in your system and you can't make quick decisions. Worry is your vision like a whistle. Can't trust in your gut. But you really know what's up to your front. Trust in your gut. 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 Trust in your.
Shouldn't even think about tomorrow. Some memories will last a long, long time. We'll have a good time, baby, don't you worry. If we're playing around, then that's just fine. I wanna love you,
are the best. Best.
Thank you so much. So we are so happy that you could be here. Please support DC Music Summit, which is the reason why we're here, kicking off February 1st at Eaton Hotel. Find more information in the back, and please follow us. We're Iza Flo Band on Instagram, on Facebook, on all the socials. And if you want to stay in touch with us, you can sign up on our email list over there in the back with our friend Iman. Say hi to Iman at the end when you leave. Hey, Iman, girl. Stay in touch. Thank you so much for being here. Now, we couldn't quite go without giving the drummers some. Don't you agree? You want to hear some from the drummers? Yes. All right. Supreme Kai, before we get started, let's get the audience to warm you up. What do you say? Can we all clap for her? Right here? Right here. All right.
You better go, Kai. Supreme. Girls on drum, girls on drum, girls on drum.
Keep those claps going.
Keep them hands together, y'all.
Shimmy, shimmy out, shimmy A, shimmy A. Give me the mic so I can take it away. This time party we'll lose on the raise some high A grade. We pour the champagne like far we all came. Trying to shop on my aim. Look at me, mom, I'm black and I'm famous. Rocking with a bunch of Power Rangers. Hit the same, they were amazing. Anything you want, I'm claiming. You keep your arch with that far you fit. Got more depth than my upper lip. All you hating is suck my ish. On my itch, on my grind. Put my city on the map this time. Go ahead, girl. Do it for the ball.
We're gonna bring the party tonight. We're gonna move, we're gonna shout. We came together to let it all out. 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 Let it all Ooh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. You ain't gon' shame this. I came out the bravest. That's why you need me on your playlist. We all entertainers. Avatar never ages. Put myself on the A-list. Yeah, Bama think I'm mistress. I've been pimping since pimping. Leave a hoe dog whipping. Out in the moment I'm living. Touch your hair on my chin. Take you back to the beginning. I'll repent for my sin. Why they out here to win? Living it up to the brim. Doing it up for my skin.
Turn down the lights. We're gonna bring the party tonight. We're gonna move, we're gonna shout. We came together to let it all out. Let it all out. Let it all out. Let it all out.
Riri, go Riri, go Riri, go! Woo, Iza! Go ahead, Timbo, babe. Music Summit, February 1st, 2020, Eat Hotel. Register at dcmusicsummit.org. Follow us at DC Music Summit. This is the Iza Flo Band. Make sure you follow us on everything IZAFLOBAND. Thank you, Kennedy Center. Y'all lit.
Thank you for joining us at the Millennium stage. For more information on